wanted to do this video on something I saw on Cerebra's channel about code switching and everything surrounding code switching is so crazy to me. One, I never understood code switching. It always seems like people act like code switching is a part of being black. Like your parents should have taught it to you, your family should have taught it to you. Somebody should have taught it to you. This is one thing that is a really big thing for me with code switching is that a lot of people who are black will basically, I guess, what they call code switch on me and, talk to me in a certain way. And it's always like, you know, they end up feeling like they can't relate or like they're the odd one because I cannot, I cannot relate to that. I don't have that in me. The whole code switch thing, basically. I mean, I don't, I wasn't taught that. I really wasn't. Like, some of the vernacular, what they call African American I, I don't know the rest of it is AAVE, I think. Vernacular English, I think it is. Um, but I don't know anything about that. Like, I don't know how to speak like them, one. She was, I think, trying to code switch, and I could see the similarity in how she would act when she would, I guess, imitate code switching. And, you know, in her way, code switching back where she could relate to what I would consider normal acting people. I don't associate the other code that they call white people. It's not code switching to white people to me because I think they become more relatable to everyone who isn't raised in their family, basically, or their subset. I mean, for me, how I was raised, I was raised by my mother who is black, and her family, none of them did anything like code switching. Um, they were just regular people, you know. They related to white people like they related to black people. I mean, I guess they didn't really see black people any different from white people, so they didn't think that they had to act very different among black people. Um, that was how I was taught, that, we're not really different, and we're just different colors. Especially black Americans, considering we don't even know what African country our ancestors come from, and most of the time we're a mix of all the African countries and the European countries as well. The average black American is a quarter white, so I mean, I don't know. To me, I just think that that's pretty much enough to let people know that you also have ancestry from other people as well. Anyhow, I just felt like with code switching, I always feel like when people associate black people with a different code as a black skin, it makes you have a different code, or you start talking in a weird way, or you start acting in a weird way just because you have a different skin tone. It's another form of racism because they assume that you act a certain way because of your color, which is no different from any other type of racism. I mean, just 10 years ago, this is what white people openly online would talk about black people being and making fun of us being. Yet we perpetuate it on an open forum for others to mock at. I don't understand that. And I mean, like, if that's how you feel you are, I think that behavior should be mocked, honestly, because it's like weird to me why you're acting differently just because you're black. You know, you make everybody else look really bad when you act that way. One, because it's like, why are you acting like you're basically putting on a show or something? To me, that's what it seems like you're a clown or like a circus animal or something. That's the way people act when they're code switching, at least in my opinion. They're not really acting like um, everybody else, basically. What I'm used to, basically. What I'm used to is people acting like normal human beings, but then when people say code switching, they talk about all these things that is basically stereotypical of a black person, basically generalizations, basically jokes about black people that are supposed to be real to them. And it's like, from my perspective, it's like, I just don't really think that that's associated with black people because when I see African people, they're not acting that way, but you're acting that way. Are you acting that way because you were trained to act that way? Because of what other people told you you were? Like, is this a product of racism from other races of people putting you down and making you feel lowly and then you acting out that you are lowly and then them making fun of you and you living out that lifestyle? That's how I feel it is. So, like, code switching to me, another part of it was that I found annoying and she brought up was she was saying how like bringing the black girl out of someone and that's the thing my mother used to talk about, bringing the black girl out of someone. And it's like my mother was always like, what, like, we don't have that in us. So it's like so weird when people think that because it's like, well, it's never, whatever you're looking for is not going to be there because that's not how our parents were. Like, my mother wasn't that way, her parents weren't that way, their parents weren't that way, and so forth. You know what I mean? So it's like, in our family, we don't have that. Some classes I think are made better than other classes, I think. And so the whole bring that the black girl in you, like that is basically an idea of low class black women, basically. And those women basically being able to act out because they're black women when it's not really that. It's just that they can't control themselves and they're a lower class woman. See, there's plenty of white trash that does the same thing and they act out too. They act out in a different way. And then there was one other thing she talked about, and I wanted to come across. She was talking about how some men who are other races who are attracted to black women want that like attitude in a black girl. And I see that too, honestly. But I see that more with Hispanic men. Hispanic men are annoying sometimes. Why, with me, Hispanic men sometimes culturally we're not similar because they have that whole situation where they are basically under the whole background of, their native country, basically, that culture, or they try to take on the hip hop culture and then they think that you're supposed to be embracing that too. And then they want those type of behaviors. She was talking about an Italian man, but I'm just saying in my experience it's always Hispanic men that would want that. And I'd always be like, well, that's not me. You can see that I'm maybe a little bit darker than you. Some Mexicans are very dark, like my color. But anyway, like you can see that I'm darker than you in some cases. Um, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to act a certain way. My skin tone doesn't dictate what I act like, or where I've been, or my family, or anything really. My skin tone is just my skin tone, and I just like for me personally, I don't really try to live out to any stereotype because it's not in me. even if I was to try, I don't think I could. I really don't think I could. Um, for one, I can't talk like them. I really can't. I don't know. The way they talk is a little different. It's just like um, the way I'm not even gonna stereotype there because I don't want to offend anyone. Forget it. Um, but my point is, like, I just don't have anything like that in me. So then, the people would always want an attitude. They'd always realize, oh, she's just not like one of those people. Sometimes they'd act like, oh, something's wrong with you because you're not like that. But it's always like, for me, it's like, well, I guess my whole family is, and generations and generations. But the truth is, like, so I tend to think suburban black people don't really have that much of an issue. More middle class families don't have that issue as much as lower class black families tend to have more of that issue because they, I guess, have the whole dysfunctional hip hop culture going on there. But that's not associated with black people. And that's what I mean with the video of cadets. It seemed like she associated the ghetto with black people. And with white men and Hispanic men and people like that she was talking about that were looking for that black girl with an attitude. I never understood this. White men and white women act hood all the time. So I never understood why are you looking for a black girl to act that way when you can look for a white girl that acts that way. Nothing against if you prefer black women or Hispanic women or white women for that matter, but I just don't understand why the black woman with the attitude when you could easily get a white girl with an attitude too. I mean, there's plenty of people who act hood. That's not specific to a race. So, yeah, that's all I have to say on code switching. To me, it's just like, it's a foreign thing to me. And I was never raised with any of it. None of it. I was raised more like, I guess you could say, I don't know, a normal Midwestern household. Um, but a younger generation X mother. With That's why like some of the music that I grew up with was more so like alternative rock, hard rock, um, grunge, and that's got to do a lot with the Generation X, um, having a Generation X parent. Um, I don't know. To me, it's just like I grew up in the suburbs, somewhat. Middle class neighborhood. What is it? East Grand Rapids is suburbs, is it? I don't really know, but it's like it wasn't a bad area. Um, I grew up with mostly white people and Hispanic people too. Um, they're not really black people. Um, and the reason for that actually is because my mom was always scared of certain she was always scared of certain black people who were more into the hip hop culture. My mom's always been scared of people like that. Me, I've never tried to judge people that way, but the problem is that because I'm different, a lot of the time people in the hip hop culture tend to look at me like something's wrong with me or I did something wrong or I'm trying to be something different. When it's like this is just me naturally. Why doesn't anyone think maybe something's wrong with you or you are acting like something like you're trying to act a certain way? From my perspective, you do seem like you're trying to act a certain way, or I mean, I don't understand. Nobody else acts like you, but you. Like, I see black people that don't even act like you. So I mean, like, to me, I don't understand that. But yeah, that's all I have to say on code switching. I think I'll be done. Thanks for watching. Bye.